which is a great indication of where things are going. So what I'd like to do is start with everybody standing up, hats off, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. John, you want to do the honors in the center, please? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And then Father Tom Loya, who is going to lead us in prayer before we start. So I thank him for coming. Thank you.
Let us pray. O Lord Almighty God, when you taught us to pray, you said to say, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." Look upon us, Almighty God, and help us to make these divinely inspired institutions, government, education, economy, marriage, family, a revelation, an incarnation of your kingdom of heaven on earth. Bless all of our good intentions. Be with us in our struggles, for fear and distress is all around us, Almighty God. Bless especially these, your servants gathered here this day in your name, and for all good intentions. And bless our good intentions as is your goodwill, Almighty God. And bless the food and drink of your servants, for you are holy, always, now, and ever and forever. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Steve says I will call him Father. And many other people are going to speak today from our group. Sheri, Tucci has not made it here. She's on her way, but she was part of the inaugural group, as I say, along with Brad, who's on his way as well. And other patriots that came together. We have a core group. We have Andrea, we have Jackie and John, Mike and Linda. They all came together, and we thought we might be a little crazy, but as we started to talk to people, we knew we weren't alone, and we wanted to work together, and this is a group to work together and forge forward. Rallies are great, but we really need action. This is an action group, and that's what we want to do. We need to address school boards. We need to address and get busy into our communities and make a grassroots effort work for all of us, every one of our communities. So if you haven't seen our mission statement's built on PE. We really push forward with, we want to empower, we want to educate, encourage, and energize. That's the core of our mission statement. Our other 4 pillars are faith, family, community, and country. We need to have those back as our pillars across the nation, but we have to start in our communities. That means educating our neighbors, educating our friends, educating those that we meet wherever we go as to what our core values are. So as we started this in 2021 in January, we had no idea where this was going to go. But when I look to what our forefathers did in 1787, they put forth what I call I like to build things. If we look at it as a builder, we were given the architectural and the engineering by our forefathers, our 8 great men that put this Constitution together for us in 1787. And what they did is they told us what we needed to do, how we needed to build, but then they depended on us, the general contractors, so to speak, the builders, the project managers, the foremen, and the gophers. We need to have all those to build the architecture and that they set forward for us. So that's why we're here today, is I'd like each one of you to decide where you fit in. Are you a general contractor? Are you a project manager? Are you a foreman? Are you a gopher? And what that means is, where do you want to work in your community? Where do you want to be part of that? Where do you feel you can fit in best? Some people are great as general contractors. Some people may be a gopher, but we need to do that. And somebody said to me the other day, God, if I had kids in school, I'd be at those school board meetings. I'd be showing up. I said, you know what? You do have kids. You do have kids in that school, because those kids are your future. Those are the ones that are going to be writing the information for you to live on. Those are the children are going to grow up and be responsible for you. So yes, even those children that may not be living under your roof or related to you, that those are your children. And that we need to be responsible for them, their education. We need to look at what's healthy for their minds and their bodies. And that will be addressed, the body part of it. We have Molly talking about COVID and some of the school mandates that are coming down that are not healthy for body nor mind. So as we look to our future, our children are our future. And that's what we need to take care of and secure in this country. We also need to look at the next election cycle. And like I like to build, I look at a hammer. There's two sides of a hammer. There's a side that builds and there's a side that tears apart. We either decide to use the side of the hammer to build and work together with other groups and say, this isn't just our group. We don't want to work with you. We need to build. We don't need to tear anybody else apart. There's other sides. There's the Democrats or whomever, the libertarians or whatever their thoughts are. Let them have their own mindset. Educate them. Don't push them away. And that's why Father Tom, I listened to him at the Lincoln dinner. And it inspired me so much to know there's other ways we can address and talk to people instead of going, jamming it down their throats. I've done it. I've done it. We've all done it. We want somebody to think the way we do. But we need to encourage people to think on their own. Lead them there. Let them come to their own conclusions. But don't jam it down their throats. Put a yard sign out. I had neighbors walk by my yard signs and say, what does that mean? Well, come here, I'll talk to you about it. This is why I do this. Really? I didn't know that was going on. So that's another part of the puzzle today. So anyway, thank you all for coming, and I really appreciate the spirit and the enthusiasm, and I'm going to let our ladies GOP. United. That's who she is. Come on up.
Well,
So,
Audrey is,
Audrey.
Audrey, I'm sorry.
You want to talk to him?
no, I'm reciting.
Audrey is the president.
Audrey, I'm so
Sharon is
sorry.
president.
That's okay. We're a group that everybody is welcome to speak. My name is Audrey Chankus, and I'm president of United Southland Republican Women. I know we have women in our name, but we always have men at our meetings because what we try to do is have interesting meetings to inform people what's going on. It's a shame to see what's happening in our country and how people are not well informed. And we do, during election time, we have all the politicians come in and give their 5-minute spiel. And then when we don't have the politicians coming in, we do like on the Constitution or topics that we think people are interested in. And right now, our next meeting is going to be July 17th. It's going to be here at Papa Joe's. It's 12 until 2. And the topic is going to be, President Trump always has a bad reputation of what type of person he is, this and that. Well, we're fortunate enough to know a person is a personal friend of the Trump family. And he's going to come here and talk to us and our members about what Trump is really like. And I think it's going to be fun. We're going to have, it's something light because we haven't had meetings in the last year and a half. And something like this should draw people because I think we need to have some fun in going forward, and especially in groups, you need to have something that's going to bring the people together. I mean, to me, in my opinion, I think this will be fun to have somebody talk about our wonderful president.
Yeah.
Again, the meeting is July 17th. It's here at Papa Joe's. And if you'd like to go, Karen and I will take your information and send you an invitation.
What time is it? I'm sorry.
12 to 2.
Okay.
And I have the clipboards with
I
the
work
sign
here,
up
I
to get
better
the
be able to
information.
get off.
Yeah, either way.
Good. There you go.
And Madeline is one of our officers too, and Karen, the three of us are officers in our group. So, do you have any questions?
Is there a men's group or a men's GOP local thing around here or anything like that?
Not no, it's usually the townships.
No offense, I don't want
No, I know.
Yeah.
No, everybody loves to come. We have a lot of men coming ours, I think.
So, I mean, it's called a woman's thing, but everybody just comes and...
Yeah, men are always
We have
welcome.
men that are members as well.
Yeah, men can
Balich is
go.
one of our members.
We just can't change our
What I
name.
identify today.
United, the earthing people.
Yes, you'll enjoy yourself if you come to our meetings. We try to make everybody feel welcome. We introduce, it's
I
a
have
good
a
group.
question.
Sure.
Precinct committee members, how do we become one of these people?
Oh, these guys are gonna cover this. I
Oh,
got
good.
these
All
guys.
right, good.
They're coming. They're coming. I got you, John. I got my laser on you.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask me about our group?
When do we pay our dues?
Next one we meet in July?
How much is it?
No, please, then I have to carry the check all the way to the
I'll carry it for you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for letting me speak to you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
I said earlier, Father Tom spoke at the Lincoln dinner about how to engage and how to speak to people about different views, and he spoke about the CRT in a school board meeting, but I'll let him speak about how he does that, and that's one of the things that I draw upon every day is how do I engage, how do I speak to people. I don't want them to think the way I think, but start to think freely, so I'll let Father Tom step in now.
Thank you for inviting me. I just want to get something straight here. This is United Women's
No,
Republican.
this isn't, no,
The organization.
this is Patriots Amplify.
But I meant the other organization we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, but I understand there's some men who identify as women, right?
Can't say that.
The liberals are already infiltrating.
Did I not warn you?
Again, thank you for inviting me. As a Catholic priest, as you probably know, it's kind of open season on us and on the church. So I basically will speak from my actual experience, always having to be under attack and so on, and having to come across people who are very much in disagreement with me or with the church and so on. So here's what I would recommend to you.
Dave, put Laura down.
That first and foremost, you are dealing with a person. Not a label, not a category. Oh, it's a liberal, Don't do that. We're dealing with persons. And persons are always in need, are always deserving of respect and love. And persons have a heart. And what we have to do to win this battle, at least to make some kind of progress in it, is to work in the level of the heart, of the changing of hearts. And work on what I call the proximate level. In other words, starting with those just closest to you, family, friends, and so on that you encounter every day. And what you do is don't try to persuade or defend or to prove that person wrong and that you are right. The way things are today is that we're so divided and nobody likes to be told that they're wrong. Everybody thinks that their position is right and they're not open to being told they're wrong. So what you have to do is you have to try to appeal to the heart. What you do is, now looking around the room here, I think you're all too young to relate to this name, Edith Bunker. You know who Edith Bunker is?
I love it so much.
I love it. Couldn't find it no more.
Now you're lying to a priest because you're too young to remember Edith Bunker. Edith Bunker, remember all the family? Archie used to call her a dingbat because she sounded really dumb, right? She'd ask these questions, sound like she was dumb, but in the end she would come in with the zinger. She was like the most brilliant one. So that's what I call Edith Bunker strategy. You have to be like Edith Bunker. You have to act as though you're dumb or naive. You don't understand. And the best thing you do is to ask questions. And if someone approaches you or challenges you, you answer them back with a question. I learned that from my Irish friends. Irish always answer a question with a question. I asked my Irish friend Patrick, I said, why do Irish always answer a question with a question? He said, do we now? But that's what you do. Because what you do is, here's the key. Their position is it comes from what's called ideology. Ideology is a word spelled ID. The first two letters are ID. It's where the word id, so a Greek word, means I, me, the self. It's where you get the word idiot, idiosyncratic. So an ideology is not reality. See, we believe, we represent, we try to live and model and share with others reality. In other words, the way it is, the way life is. Like you were saying about faith and family and so on. Well, the other side, our opponents, are into what's called ideology. In other words, how I think it should be, not how things are. So ideology, the only way it can reign is by coercion. and by force and manipulation and deceit. So what you want to do is you want to call that out of the person by questions. When they say a word, like for instance, white supremacy or white privilege, that's when you go in your Edith bunker. Say, privilege, what does that mean? Well, how do you understand privilege? I'm not sure I understand that. I hear that a lot, but I'm not sure what it is. So you're not acting like you're against it. You're not trying to prove they're wrong or engage on. You're just calling it out of them. And what's going to happen is they try to answer you, and they give one answer, you ask another question. You tease out. For example, someone says, I'm pro-choice. I said, oh, good. I think those are choices too. But pro-choice in regard to what? Well, a pregnancy. I said, okay, can you finish that for me? I don't quite understand your position. Choose to do what? Already they're going to get uneasy. And then they say, well, you know, they'll use a code word. Well, terminate a pregnancy. Next question is, oh, but how does that happen? I heard things, but how exactly does that happen? Have you ever seen that or experienced that? Then they'll really get nervous. And they won't be able to, and they'll start stammering, they'll get mad, usually end it. You got it. So they're going to walk away having been challenged by themselves. Just by you pulling it out of them where it's in front of them, it's like they have to hear themselves, hear what it is they believe in, and see that it starts to fall apart, that it's faulty. You don't have to prove it to them. It's sort of self-proving, self-debunking, if you can ask the right questions. And that way you're always respecting them as a person. And you stand your ground, you don't change what you believe, but you kind of play dumb. Like you're trying to come to some kind of understanding, understand them better, and you need to know. You need to know where they're really coming from. And don't be afraid. You know, in the Bible, you know the one thing that God spoke most against in the Bible? The whole of the Bible is against fear. Do not be afraid. Be not afraid. Never be afraid. Now, don't be afraid to get hurt. Don't be afraid to offend. Don't be afraid to be offended. People often say that to me when I give talks on these hot button issues, which I do a lot. And they'll say, well, that what you said offends me. And I say, oh, gee, well, I do have a problem now because I'm offended that you're offended. Now what do we do? As I know, it's like football, offsetting penalties. So I'll keep talking. You're only offended if you choose to be. It's true. You want to try? Some of you want to try and offend me? You see, whatever you want. If I choose to be offended, I'll be offended. The same thing the other way too. Don't be afraid, because what they do is they pull out these. I call them they're like clubs. It's the race club. You know, it's a sexist club. It's the I'm offended club. They pull it out to intimidate you. Because remember, ideology cannot stand on its own. It's got to be intimidation. So if he says something to me and I say I'm offended, then right away he's supposed to go, oh, gee, I'm sorry. I'll retract my views, change my views, and I'll be on your side now. See, it's intimidation by these clubs that they pull out. They're taught that. You know, they're very, very organized. They're taught that. They commandeer words, they change their meanings or squeeze the meaning out of them, and they use them as clubs against us. The problem is we're afraid. We're afraid to take the hit. We're afraid to challenge that. You say, well, what do you mean by you're offended? Just because someone says they're offended doesn't mean they are offended. So don't back away from that kind of thing. Stand your ground, be courageous, and realize that as you are here, the fact that you're here, you are front runners. You're the first guys in, all right? If you're serious about this, because this is a call to action. This is not just rah-rah. It's a call to action, which means you are the ones who are going to have courage, and you're going to take the hits. And that's our biggest problem. We're afraid to take the hits. We're afraid to feel pain. We're afraid to take some defeats. Get knocked down, get made fun of. That person doesn't like me anymore. I lose a friend. My kid won't talk to me anymore. He won't let me see my grandkids anymore because I voted for Trump. And you know, we cave. We cave to that. You can't be afraid of anything or anybody. And don't be afraid to offend, and you can't be offended yourself unless you choose to be. So ask questions, be strong, be courageous, be innocent, like Christ said. Be sly as a fox, innocent as a dove. Never attack them as a person. Always treat them with love and respect, but yet with righteousness, with fortitude, with principle, call out of them what their belief is, and just keep asking those questions. Just keep playing dumb. You don't even have to end the argument or conversation. Just walk away and say, oh, okay, I'll think about that. Because already they're rattled. Because no one, see, they're taught to think that their commandeering of words, like equality, equity, what does that mean? What does actually that mean?
Social justice.
Social justice, yeah, what is that actually? There's a huge broad term. What does it actually mean? They're taught that that's it, that's right, you fit into that category, and that's the end of the discussion. But what you're doing is you're just exposing that, challenging it, and they'll see it starts to fall apart. They can't really articulate it. They can't give a really cogent argument about it. And just kind of let it go with that. Now you can go further, but most of the time do it this way, because there you have a contact, there you make some kind of little dent in the heart. And we've got to be able to gain disciples. That's where it's at. I mean, Christ took 12 guys to change the world. 12 guys to change the whole world. It doesn't take a lot, it takes a few. And one more example to show you. I was called in by some members of a school board. Because these members were concerned about the same things you're concerned about. From on high was going to be imposed upon this local school board that they're going to replace real education with critical race theory. And there were some people in the school board who were very adamant about that. Yeah, we're going to do this, and others were very concerned about it, and they were concerned for their children. So they called me in on this meeting, and my recommendation was exactly what I told you here. And I talked to them at great length about it, more in detail and so on. Well, they were kind of gearing up for this big battle meeting they were going to have. So they went in there, and they did exactly what I'm telling you tonight. And they had a face-off with that person who was very adamant about this critical race theory. And as they just played Edith Bunker, that person who was all for critical race theory resigned their position on the spot.
Wow.
All they do is ask questions, innocent as doves. And this person just fell apart because their position could not be defined, it could not be defended. What do we mean by critical race? What's the goal here? What's happening? Because and I told them, act like you're trying to find like a common good. Like, okay, it's good for the kids, right? Critical race theory. Yeah, it's good for the kids. They got to learn this. Well, we want to think it's good for the kids too, but we want to make sure it's good. So we can't sign on to something unless we understand it. Can you explain it to us a little bit more? And that starts the discussion. That starts them opening up. Then you tease it out more. Just keep teasing it out, teasing it out, teasing it out. I guarantee you, it'll fall apart. They'll get rattled. And when they leave that conversation, you may not have changed their heart in that spot, like in this case, but you start to make them think. They're going to think, and they're going to get a whole lot less confident about what they're being told, what they believe in. And it's like you crack open the heart. You crack it open so it can start to be worked with and change. It's called discipling. It's the most effective technique there is. See, a lot of times we're going to go for the big one. Get the right president there, get the government, get the Republicans in there, and the country would be great. Okay, that's partly true, but but what really works though, is proximate to one-on-one. His heart begins to change, then her heart begins to change. And then she changes someone else's heart. Pretty soon we've got this broadening platform, this foundation. Look at the founding fathers. How many were there? How many people started that revolution? Just a few. And they're willing to take the hits, stand up for what they believed in, challenge the terminology, but do it always mindful that this is a person in your presence, not a label, not a category. I have to do this all the time as a priest on all kinds of levels, and I can tell you that for me it's the most effective thing, and I do take it out of the playbook of the Bible. Jesus did it all the time. Whenever he was challenged, he would always answer with a question. He'd say, let me ask you a question, then I'll answer you if you can answer this question. And every time he won, because he knew that their position was faulty, and it fell apart on its own. You just have to tease it out of them innocently, but very, very cleverly. Okay? Thank you.
So I know that after 2020, voter integrity and voter rolls have all been sort of on our minds. Whether anything changes for the last 2020 cycle is really something I say rearview mirror. We need to look forward. If you keep looking in your rearview mirror and that's how you drive, you're going to hit what's in front of you. So we need to look forward. So that's where Becky Rudyoulf has been working on the voter integrity part and voter roll, and I'm going to have her take off.
All right. So, Becky Rudyoulf, I am chair of the Lisle Township Republican Organization in DuPage County. Thank you very much to Therese. I'm very honored and grateful to be here to talk to you guys. I know that a lot of us have been pretty dismayed with Republican Party organizations, and part of why we're here. I have as well. I think, though, what I have come to kind of decide is there's a value in that organization, largely because of access. I sent an email this afternoon and requested the voter data for all of the townships, about 85,000 records. It'll probably be in my inbox tomorrow, and it's the Republican Party organizations and the candidates and elected people that can get that automatically. Illinois Conservative Union, which is a great organization, I don't know, some of you probably know about that, they spent 2 years on a lawsuit to get an official copy of this data. And the other thing that Republican precinct committeemen can do is, in DuPage County at least, there's this form that you can fill out with obsolete records. If someone is moved, if someone is deceased, there's a couple different things, and then you can send that into the election commission and they'll start the process of verifying. So the thing that I've been trying to focus on is the basic tool that we need to get people elected, and we need to find out who's going to vote for the candidates that we want to support and get them to vote. And you do that with the voter data. And I started a little bit, tried to go street by street, finding what candidates do. DuPage County gives an Excel spreadsheet with the voter data on there, which is fine. You can do a lot of searching and everything on there. But if you want to work with that over time, it changes. People move. New people register. You need this voter data software. And to help you, once you identify someone as someone that you'd like to keep in touch with or recruit to vote, then you need to be able to keep track of that. And so that's what I'm focused on, trying to get that software, and then go out and find the people to tell us, tell us about the people on your street, tell us about who's the person that's going to be receptive to Republican type messaging, and record that and maintain it over time. And that's really what we're trying to work on in Lisle Township. And I have a little application. I don't know if anybody in here lives in Lisle Township, but feel free to talk to me and I'll get you information. And if you're interested in being a precinct committeeman, we have a lot of open precincts. So, so the two things, finding the and then also finding the obsolete voter records. There's tons and tons of records in there where you've got multiple last names living in this house. Well, you can tell, that two of them are in their 70s and the other two are in their 40s. It's pretty sure the house has been sold. So there's, that's the other thing I want to look for is obsolete records, and just, get those off of there. The less there is on there, the less opportunity there is for fraud of mail-in ballots and that type of thing. So anyway, is that pretty much what you expect me to cover? All right. Thank you.
So Becky led us into where, like I said, we're general contractors, etc. for my analogy for buildings. So Steve Militello, I'm probably botching your name, but he's also working in the same venue as getting people in and getting people involved as well. So I'm gonna let you talk to it and about getting people involved.
All right. Well, I would say that the first level of involvement is commitment. So she's right. The first level that you need to do is becoming commitment. So find your local township. In Illinois, we're set up by township, and then the next hierarchy is county. And then, find your local township, wherever township you're in, GOP party, and sign up to be either a LIP or a loop. Live-in precinct, you have to be elected. So you have to go and get text signatures, get on that ballot, and you get one vote. If there's nobody running against you, you win. Maybe two, or maybe it's 10. It's a very small number that actually nobody runs against you. Then there's live out of precinct, and they just get appointed by the party. So I'm an appointed committeeman. So because my highway commissioner lives like 3 doors away from me, so that's like I probably will take the position once he's done. So that's the first level. The second level of involvement that I really think that people need to step up after you've done that is election judges. Is there anybody here that's an election judge? Okay, we got one. All right, that should be like 70%, to be honest with you. Our form of government in America is citizen accountability. So without citizen accountability, there's nobody watching. The foxes are watching the henhouse. If you have a Democrat election commission, it's tricky. It's hard to keep track of it all because in some areas, like I think in the Chicago election commission, it's appointed by the mayor. In the county, it might be appointed by the county supervisor. They're different in everywhere, so I don't exactly know how the election commissions, but if they're all one party, nobody's watching. So it takes the citizens to be the election judges. And if you can't be an election judge, the next step would be a poll watcher. Everyone should be a poll watcher. I have this email from I never got to talk to him back, but his name was Jeff. He's from the Chicago GOP. And I've been trying to make this aware to the candidates that will be running statewide election because I see a lot of goofiness. So I'd like to give it to people. You guys can pass it out. People got a couple, 2 pages. People look at it.
An email? Because I could also send it out.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Email, I can send it out as a group email as well.
Yeah, that's fine. I have it in my notes. I can do it once it's done. You guys can read it. There's a couple more here. I'm going to basically talk about this. I just want to make sure I got enough for everybody. Here you go. Here's another one. I'm going to keep one for myself. So when I contacted him after the 2020 election, I contacted Jeff because I wanted this Jeff at the GOP. I never actually got to talk to him on the phone, and this is the only contact that we had, but I was really learned a lot about how the Chicago Election Commission works from this email. And I have a lot of questions about the Chicago election because our statewide elected positions are popular vote. So if you can take one election commission and move it by 5 or 10 points, you gotta wonder. When I was a kid, Illinois had some Republicans statewide. And now we have almost none. So none, we have none. So anyways, the point is that I'm reading and I asked him about, the election commission in Chicago. And I asked him, I found out that I became an election judge, and I learned from becoming an election judge that you have to have a two-thirds split of Democrat or Republican in each precinct. So when he tells me in there, I knew that because of the Illinois law. But what I didn't know is that you can just make a Democrat or Republican for the day. I mean, you don't. So it's really it's a toothless law because what they did in the last election is they just made CPS teachers Republicans for the day. So the Chicago Public Schools, they actually had precincts where there were no Republicans at all, basically. So there's state laws where like the ballots have to be initialed. That's a state law. They have to initial each ballot. Well, if there's no Republican judges at all in a precinct, and some of these Cook County precincts, especially on the south side, they can just do whatever they want. I mean, they're literally, the ballots are printed. They can just feed them into the machines or count it. I mean, there's nobody watching this at all. So I got my head scratching, about I thought that was incredibly strange. Now, I also learned that to be a Chicago has its own election commission. So it's independent of Cook County. Because I was watching the Cook County race for state's attorney against Kim Foxx. And And I thought the other guy won. And then I talked to somebody and they go, no, you have to go to the Chicago Election Commission and add those numbers in. Well, that's different than in DuPage County. We're in DuPage County, we look on the county website and we know the data. So I learned that. But I learned that they have an entire election division. That's even for county-wide, state, and federal. They're not accountable to the county government in Chicago. They basically have their own commission. And so what I also learned is that commission installs Republican judges. So if you apply as a real Republican judge, they don't necessarily have to take you as a real Republican judge. They can put in their fake Republican judge. And that was very concerning for me.
And I will tell you, most of my family registered to be a judge, and none of them were picked to make their own.
Exactly.
And they're in Chicago.
And I'm trying to make the candidates. The reason I'm giving you this email is because I've talked to Darren Bailey. I've talked to Gary Rabine. I've talked to all the candidates that are running for statewide that I know of. I didn't talk to Ship yet, but I've been saying you guys aren't going to win unless you can get the best poll watchers and judges installed. You have to go out there because there is no state leadership. There's no state GOP. I don't even know who the guy is that got it, but he's not going to go in there and say, hey, that's not a real Republican, and do a court challenge. So there is no Republican in there. It's up to the candidates to make this aware. So this guy, Jeff, like I said, I think people should reach out to him. I also think if you know these candidates, let them know, because I know them. I've been telling them, you're not going to win. You're not going to win unless you get a hold of the Chicago Election Commission, figure out who the guys on there, start pointing names on the media. We have a very, I don't know if you guys know this, but we have a shortened election. They did it on purpose. So you're not even going to be able to collect signatures until January 13th for your candidates. You're going to have to go out there in the cold. Normally, I have all my candidates' signatures done by November. I want to have them all done before the first snowfall. But we're not going to have any. They specifically did it to shorten the campaign season, make it a disadvantage for us. So, we're going to have a very short campaign season. So when the actual candidate gets named and they start actually going into Pittsburgh, we're in a very small time to figure this out. Right now they're just potential GOP candidates, and the news media just ignoring them. When they're an actual candidate, it's going to be a very short time for them to figure this out. So if people can help me to get this information out to the candidates and say, look, you guys got to get a hold of the Chicago Election Commission. Who's running it? I want to know the names. I want them up on the news.
I've been at numerous rallies, and Bailey was at one of them, and that was the feedback that we were trying to get them, penetrate Chicago, because that's where the gap is.
It is. I really truly believe we can take this state, but Chicago, there's election anomalies in Chicago, and then there's just a no reach out. Everybody just kind of ignores Chicago.
Right. Exactly.
If anybody knows George Pearson, he's a good friend of mine. I've been telling him run for Secretary of State because I think he would be great, and I think he would really up the Chicago vote. Go ahead.
One of the reasons in the November election, they had more judges. This is the first time that they had more people applying as judges than they actually needed. And that's why a lot of people didn't.
If you read this email, that's not what the executive said. He actually said that a lot of them, the old ones, weren't there because of COVID. But who took over? CPS teachers.
Yes. Because my family.
So they had enough because they had the teachers. So you got to read it between the lines.
They said it was all new faces after voting facilities in the city, and they were definitely around 30 years old. So it was, the
They were getting paid to stay home, and they were bored. So they became Republicans for the day. So, like I said, I don't exactly have the answer to this, but I do think that I come here to speak to all you, because maybe group-wise we can all figure out.
May I ask, I'm sorry. I think the biggest problem, and I'm included in this, is the ignorance around the process with precinct captains and election judges. Like, most of the people that I know, especially especially, you know, stay-at-home moms, they don't know how it works. You know what I mean? This is very important to them, but almost like, you know, like election for dummies. Like, this is how you contribute on you know, a large level or a small level. You can do this and like Canada.
Awesome. I would love to tell you. Let me ask you this question, because I'm going to talk to you. I can talk to you for 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
No, I just want to know, when it comes to Chicago, were there any reports of Republican or conservative poll watchers being escorted out of the buildings like we've heard about in other parts of the country?
I don't think there weren't any.
And, right, because there probably weren't any conservatives watching.
No, there wasn't any watching. And that's what I'm telling you guys.
Otherwise,
We need to have an army of judges, and then we need to hold the Chicago Election Commission to make sure that they take the real Republican judges. And then we need an army of poll watchers. And any state candidate can make anyone in the state a poll watcher. But to make you a Chicago Election Commission judge, you must live in Cook County, is what I'm told. So, not necessarily in the city of Chicago, but you have to live in Cook County. But then we have to make sure, through accountability, through the candidates, that they actually take them.
I just wanted to, there's an excellent site called precinctstrategy.com.
Okay.
And it tells you, there's videos and everything else. It tells you how to become a precinct commissioner. It also shows, you know, and there's links.
I've never been to that site, but I
You
can.
have to be patient with it, because some of it's kind of not the best, but it's a good site. It helped me to find it.
Thank you.
I will. So yes, to become a committeeman, and it's their first, because these groups are great, but the committeemen are the official, not government, but it's the official party of the state, so it has more power. You know, they can kind of just overlook these fringe groups and marginalize us. But when you're an actual, there's really two recognized, really parties, it just gives you a lot more power. So I tell everybody, get part of it. There's one in your township. I guarantee you, there is a meeting in your township now. Sometimes in the southern, they don't do it by township because there's not enough people, so they do it by the whole county. There's also Illinois GOP. You can go there, and it's got the emails for all the county chairmen.
Oh, that's good to know.
You know, so every county chairman has an email and a phone number, and it's on the Illinois GOP website, so that's a good way to go. But
I think the most important part of this is because, again, I was so ignorant to this whole process and where the biggest bang for our buck would be as concerned voters and parents. Like, where do we go to make the biggest impact? And to me, it sounds like committeemen
and election judges.
Right.
Everybody in there should be an election judge. At the bare minimum, if they won't take you for an election judge, you can be a poll watcher through your county party or through a candidate. Sign up to help any candidate you like. Go volunteer for them and say, hey, I want to be a poll watcher. They'll give you the credentials, and you can go and be a poll watcher. It's kind of boring. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, it's boring, but it's an important part of the process because the more people eyes on it, the more fair it will be. As far as you know, the election judges, you have to get appointed by your county election commission. So it's a little bit more difficult, especially if your county election commission is more Democrat.
That's what looks like, correct?
Yeah.
The page is not.
But it's up to, and if you read the email, if this is in Chicago, it's up to the precinct captains to make sure that there's actual real Republican judges. Well, it's up to the county party and the more suburban to make sure that there's real Republican judges. So if you can do a little research on who the actual judges are, you know, on election day, and you can say that person's not a real, you know, Republican. Because here's the way they do it in Illinois. I don't know, did anybody see the news where the lady in Villa Park stole signs?
Yeah.
They picked it up, it was all on the news. It was, I mean, I heard people in Florida were talking about it. She stole signs, she got arrested. And then she only stole Republican signs. She only stole Republican signs. And then they pulled a FOIA request on her. And she had last two elections had voted in Republican primaries. So then they said, oh, she's a Republican. she's stealing Republican signs. It makes no sense. I do all the Republican signs in DuPage County. I never met this woman in my life. So I started asking questions. I go, well, I started asking people, well, why did she vote in the Republican primary? It was to be a Republican judge. She can then become the Republican judge and say, I'm a Republican, just because she voted in a couple primaries. So she's not a real Republican, she's a Democrat. But she pretends to be because she voted and she said, oh yeah, look, I voted in a primary. You know, so it's something that we need to watch out. I actually think that the law should be changed in Illinois so that county parties can challenge this on an official, you know, whatever. So I guess that's kind of all I have to say. I just said to look at the email. I'll give you my.
Hi, my name's Erica. I am actually this year I ran for my first elected office and won. So I am one of the 4 York Township trustees. I just want to let you know our York Township board has never, I shouldn't say never, has rarely had opposition, and this year they ran somebody against all of us except for the assessor. So they are itching to take over, especially in DuPage County. They've got a thing called DuPage for Progress. It is awful, and they are itching. They will put somebody up against everybody, even if they do not have the qualifications, and people are falling for this hook, line, and sinker. Thankfully, across the board, all of us Republicans were elected in York Township. So, but I just want to make you guys aware that this is what's going on, and the Democrats are putting people up against everybody, and they're not middle of the road Democrats. These people are very extreme. You know, it's scary, some of the stuff that came out during our election cycle. So just be aware of that. If you have good candidates, please talk to somebody. Yeah, we don't want them taking over this state any more than they already have. So, yes.
Good question. I live in DuPage County in Naperville. How do I get? I want to be involved. What do I do? Like, where do I go or talk to or?
Get out of Naperville.
No, where do we go?
Now let me ask you, is that in Will? DuPage Township is actually in Will, or is that in DuPage?
DuPage.
Are you sure? Because I thought it was Naperville Township in
Yes,
DuPage.
that is true.
So DuPage Township, I believe, is actually in Will County, right?
No, I'm in DuPage County.
Well, there's a GOP, like there's the township, like York Township covers like Elmhurst, Oakbrook, Lombard, Villa Park, a little bit of Glen Ellen, a little bit of Westmont. So your portion of Naperville is covered under either
There's a website called DuPage GOP.
Township or Milton's North.
You've been in Naperville for a while. You might be in Miles Township. You can talk to me later and I can tell you who to talk to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're gonna
Stay at home, Daddy. Yeah, I'm staying home, Dad. I got a lot of free time, so.
Any other questions? Thank you. That's all my job.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know what? John Kidis, he's also works in this venue. But I want to jump back a little bit. And as you're saying, when you choose to run, there's gophers. Like I said in my analogy, come to us. If you need somebody to walk and go get those signatures and knock those doors, come to the gophers. Find a gopher. Find your neighbor. Find somebody that doesn't want to run, but there's people that want to back you. Let them have your tea. Let them help you, endorse you. Some people want to stay in those shadows as the gophers, but we need them just as much as we need the project managers and the general contractors and the builders. We need all of those. We've got the builders, who's the gophers. So that's what I'm saying. So please don't be afraid to run. Call me. I'll get people. We have people that like to wear tennis shoes and walk. So
If you have volunteers, you can.
Hi everybody, my name is John Kidis, and I'm a precinct captain in the Bloomingdale Township near Carroll Street. And is anybody here from Carroll Street? No, nobody from the front. Okay, well, I just want to keep it simple. I wish I could repeat what Steve said. Everything is true. We're going to amplify it a little bit. The key is to go door to door in your precinct, if you know where your precinct is, wherever you live. That's the key. Find the map. Look online, and you could find it out. Let's keep it simple. Just find out where your precinct is and get involved. Go door to door, meet your neighbors, Republican, Independent, Democrat. It doesn't matter. I do it for a different purpose because I'm a big two-way advocate. I go out and I meet my neighbors. Some guys are gun people. Well, let's go shooting. Get to know your neighbors. That's what we did years ago. We're from that generation. So there's so many fights, so many battles that are going on. You know, Therese, Sheri, and Linda, they're, you know, how many, we get the CRT going on, you've got the transgender stuff going on, the mask thing, the voter integrity, 1,000 battles. Stick with one thing and focus. Go door to door. And that's what Becky was talking about, where she wants to get the voter rolls, get everybody in line. We can't win the battles all at one time. We have to take it step by step. And that means, if you can do it, you become a precinct captain. Go to your local committeeman or whoever it is over in that area. See if you can get on. A lot of people in the Republican Party don't want us as committeemen. They really don't. That's why 50% of them are vacant. And that's across the country. Look it up. Somebody mentioned, somewhere over here, the precinct project, right? Look that up. President Trump did that in 2015. He knew that was the core. Now they're going to go after the schools. But stick with Therese. Then, you know, this group here could be the go-to group if you need to go out and fight voter integrity or the CRT. We can come back to this group online or whatever we have, and then we can go fight those battles independently. But getting involved in your precinct, I don't care what you are or what you do, that is the key to everything. Steve is absolutely right in a lot of things. There's so many things you have to know. How are you supposed to know? You're working. You know, I work 7 days a week. I have a couple of businesses downtown. I was involved with the Democratic Party in the first ward for 35 years. There was no Republicans downtown. And if anybody was down there, you'd know. So the key is, and I'm just, like I said, keep it simple. Go and get involved in your local area. Even if maybe you don't want to become a precinct captain, but get to know your neighbors anyway, without the blessing of the Republican Party. Because then you know who you can get involved to go and fight the school board and go fight these other little issues. That's it. It's just that simple. Okay? Thank you.
So, I'm Andrea. I live in Geneva, Illinois, which is Kane County, and for U.S. Congress, it's the 14th district. So, I am considering, maybe turn that video on. I'm considering running against Lauren Underwood for. So I started out kind of slow, kind of talking to people. I talked to Dave Pritchard, who was Jeannie Ives' campaign manager. Dave told me that it's going to cost $3 million for me to run. I said, Dave, you are full of it. There's no way I'm going to spend that much money on a campaign. That is wasteful, disgusting. What would I even spend it on, Dave? Show me the budget. So, there's a lot of different problems with running for office right now. One of them is social media. How many of you are still on Facebook all the time? Raise your hand if you're still on Facebook all the time.
If you're in jail all the time.
Yeah, I can't get involved in the jail. But I really feel like if Republicans are going to make any progress whatsoever, we have to be a lot less dependent on Facebook. Because they are watching. They are minimizing our post visibility. So the more we post, the less they get viewed. So we really need to start thinking about new avenues for communication. Okay, first of all.
Why avoid Facebook? There's so many people on Facebook. Why couldn't we do like Father said, kind of talk to people?
Well, you go ahead and do that. and we can't get into all that today because I'm going to talk about what I'm doing. But we need to come up with some new ways, and we need to be more flexible so that we can get our message across to each other. And at this point, what we need to do is attract Republicans who are sick and tired of being minimized on social media. So that's a huge problem for me that I'm going to be dealing with for a long time if I do in fact do this. So my first step was, of course, talk to an expert. and I didn't like what he had to say. My second step was go and talk to the Western Kane County Republican organization, which is the committeemen, okay? I started emailing Terry Hill, I think his name is, at the beginning of March. And I would ask him, when can I come to the meeting? Can I adopt a precinct? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? The day of the meeting, he emailed me. They had their first meeting on May 20th. He said, oops, I forgot to invite you. I'm like, really? We've been talking and talking. And so a mom friend of mine is the vice president of this group. And so she really wanted me to get going and get involved. I just actually sent her an email now. It prompted me because, you know, it's the 20th is coming up, the third Thursday or whatever day it is, and I'm still not getting emails about these meetings. So whoever said that they don't want us there, was it you? They don't really want us there, but I'm going anyway. And here's the goal. So while I was at the meeting for the Western Township of the committeemen, they said that there's COVID money out there that should be going to townships. Where is that money? How do you apply for it? Blah, 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 blah. So if you are out there and your business has been hurt or whatever, make sure you talk to your peeps, your Republicans, and find out where all of that money went. Because nobody seems to know. Nobody seems to have gotten any of it. Raise your hand if you got any COVID relief other than like the check that they gave the rest of us. Where did all that freaking money go? Where? So call your GOP president of your committeemen and find out. Start asking some questions about that because I personally want to know. So that was a big one when I found out that nobody knew where the money went and nobody knew how to get it. Then the next thing was that the Illinois lost a seat or two. Congressional seat or two. So they're going to be, and help me out, don't let me get it straight. They're going to be redistricting, and what they think is going to happen, what this group of people thinks is going to happen, is that Adam Kinzinger's seat is going to go away. I think he's the 16th district. No, bad, because now Adam's out of a job, and so the position looks like he's going to run for governor. As a Republican. So we gotta put the kibosh on all of this. I mean, as much as I would love for Adam to not be the congressman anymore, we probably don't want him on the loose running for governor as a Republican. So that was another piece of gold that I heard. So what does that mean for me as a candidate in the 14th district? The 14th district could be expanded to include, you know, parts of the 16th district, and a bunch of gerrymandering is going to happen. So the candidates that we saw a few weeks ago, Bailey spoke at Lyons Township a few weeks ago. It was Lombardi. He's running for U.S. Congress against Adam, I think, and a bunch of other candidates who are running. Well, if they combine some of our districts, those candidates are going to be my Republican peers. And are any of you from Kane County or the 14th district? Any of you? I'm wondering who my competition is as a Republican. Well, guess what? I'm not hearing anything because Jim Overweiss is not saying if he's running because he's waiting for the redistricting that will happen at the end of June. It should be about June 30th. You probably heard about the Illinois redistricting at the beginning of the month. Now it's going to be the U.S. redistricting at the end of the month. So be watching at the end of the month for this news because it's going to affect you and your district when it comes time to vote for U.S. Congress. So to sum it up, I don't know what's happening. I'm going to know more at the beginning of July. Number one, I need to know what my district is. Number two, I need to know if Overweiss is running. And number three, I'm not hearing that anyone is running against Thorne and Underwood right now because of all these domino effect things. So be listening, be looking at the end of June for this information to come out because it's going to affect you too. So, you have anything to say, Steve?
Well, the redistricting is going to happen throughout Illinois and your county.
Right.
Your county county districts are gonna be redistricting too.
Is your influence gonna have a
Well, in DuPage County, the Democrats get to draw, they run the county board for the first time in, ever. And so they get to draw it, and they're gonna bring in a mannequin specialist to draw it for us.
Yeah, they're already.
So because they're clueless, they have no idea what they're doing. So they're gonna bring in a, specialist from the state of Illinois, and I think your district is gonna be in Lisle, because I heard there's a lot of apartment buildings over there and stuff, that they're gonna really utilize
Do you
that.
know when they're doing that though, or?
Well, it'll be around the same time.
June, the end of June.
Yeah, end of June, be watching.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I was in a meeting in Elmhurst, and they said that they got rid of Deanne, Mazzocchi. They got rid of her area too, so she's gonna be out of the seat. So that's the only way that they said that they can win, because they're so nervous. They saw what happened in the last election cycle, and they're like, we're gonna lose the House, and we gotta do something. So we're just, even though Pritzker, when he was a campaign promise, he wasn't gonna do this. That's why I said we need to pound him on, you're gonna lie, you lied to us, you're gonna do this. I don't think Pritzker's gonna run, may not make a difference, but that's something we need to be laser focused on, is if Pritzker, he can veto it. Doubt he will, but we can always pray. So I'm gonna jump on to the next subject, which is huge on our minds, as parents, grandparents, neighbors of children. CRT and SB 0818, they squished that through. Linda and Sheri, they're part of our core group, and they have been researching and working on that, and I'm gonna let them take over.
I am gonna try to not share my 45 minutes every day that I spend researching critical race theory. By show of hands, do you have any immersion or have any clue of anything, any component of critical race theory? Can you raise your hand if you kind of have a little bit of an idea of what it is? Raise them high. Good. This is great, because you are almost the whole entire population who I asked this to in my town. You, in this concentrated group, are more than anybody I talk to. They know nothing about it. There's a lot of liberals. There's misconception about liberals. We lump them in with the Democrats, and they don't define themselves as such. So that is the group I'm going after. That's the younger people that just kind of want to be independent. That is who I'm targeting. There are young moms. There are young moms with these young kids, because this is not going to weigh in anytime soon. So urgently, I'm just going to say, does anybody have a child in school this year coming up, K through 12? Yes. Raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to enlist your help. This is super vitally important and urgent for you especially. What's going to be implemented this school year, do I have any teachers here? Teachers? Do I have any teachers? Okay, I don't have anybody to back this up, but this is my research, and believe me, it's coming on strong through Illinois. There's very little we can do about it right now, but I'm compiling a lawful side of this, and we are going to win this. It's just, once something goes into place, it's hard to undo. It's going to take time. But in the meantime, in 2 days from now, what is going to go through is HB 2678, and that is the critical race theory. No, I'm lying. It's not critical. It jumps on board with this. There's 3 of them that are connected. The one that's going to go through Congress and be up for hearing, we got lucky because the cutoff ended on Memorial Day. So they would have heard this and probably passed it, but we have 2 days to get on the phones and reach our legislation, okay? I have called so many private schools. I taught in private schools. I did special ed services, K through 8. I have a lot of connections still, and I talked to so many people. Some of these institutions did not know what I was talking about. It was alarming to me. So here's what you need to do. 2687, if you want to take a note on that, it originated in the House, so it's called HB 2687. That is up for hearing first thing on the docket when they resume on Tuesday. Okay? So we really have tomorrow. We have tomorrow to do this. And I hope you will do this if you make no other call, because this is the most urgent one. I don't think it's the most important because I'm watching it, because I have 2 other ones that'll be following soon after, but this is really where we can get some traction. So call, they are going to be in Springfield. So whoever your representative is, find out the Springfield contact number. You're gonna wait on hold, you're gonna get a whole bunch of yeah. These people are not very professional. But they have to record your call. And they have to know what your grievance is. So vote no for 2687, okay? That is imperative. Witness slips, I'm all for the good old fashioned petition, but what I'm finding with the witness slips is if they get a profound response, 17,870 people responded to this because parents in the private school, St. Peter and Paul, in DuPage County, enlisted all their parents. They blasted an email out and said, oh my gosh, look at what's going on. They waved this banner. I got a whole bunch of, well, I got to get an okay from the diocese. I worked under them. I understand how that works. But these are parents that are invested. The private school sector, if you know private school parents, call your friends, have them call. If all of us can call 10 people and they can call 10 people by tomorrow, we can get some traction on this. The witness slips are good for that day of the hearing. And what they keep doing with that 17,000 almost, witness slips that they received was they did not hear it on that Monday when it was due to be heard. So when they don't hear it, those all go away. Well, good luck drumming up 17,000 people again to re-sign up for their witness slip.
Yeah, and keep in mind, when you are calling, you are taking their assistant away from their day-to-day duties to record this message.
Yes.
And then they are not getting anything done for the senator, so you're distracting them, and then they're gonna get irritated, you know what I mean?
They are, and they sound irritated on the phone, but they work for us.
They do.
They work for us. I don't care what their little duties are, they work for us, and they have to answer it.
And do you understand what the implication is for the private schools with this? The implication is that they want to be able to have power to state, like if there's a pandemic again, that they can close down the private schools too. So private schools will open during the pandemic. This would allow them to close down the private schools. You know, so that's a great infringement on our freedom. You know, it's like if you send your kids to private schools, you should be able to send them, they should be able to be open if they want to. So that is like the big thing for the private schools. That's why you want to know.
If I may add, I'm so sorry.
No, go right ahead.
I found this to be very interesting, and it's unverified at this point, but I looked at the witness slips for 2789, and there were a lot of daycare agencies that were opposed to it. So I think this is applicable to daycare as well.
You were correct.
Right.
It's applied to homeschooling as well, which I do homeschool my daughter.
Right.
And so what this is in a nutshell, and you might think, well, what's the big deal? It is indefinitely put in place once it's in place. It's supposedly for emergency use, but they don't define what emergency use is. They revised this, it flew through the House in a real skeletal thing, and it was kind of like, I let my group know, I'm like, I'm watching this, I get it. It flew through, votes, hands down, no problem. Went into the Senate, and they stopped it, and I was like, oh, we got some sensible people. But they revised it for the worst. And then they revised it a second time, and it got worse. And now the third time is horrifying. Because what it does is it takes completely out of the education realm the power for them to shut down our schools, to mandate how we will attend or not attend, what provisions need to be in place. Some of them are prohibitive cost-wise, so they will not be able to open because they will not be able to operate up to those standards. Private schools have a really thin budget. We pay a lot for our kids. My grown kids went through private schools. We pay a lot. We give blood, sweat, and tears and on-the-ground efforts that we do. But the reality is we cannot chip in for the type of PPE that they're going to require, and that's going to, therefore, will remain closed. Now, that being said, our private schools, especially our elementary, throughout Lombard, throughout, DuPage County, essentially, remained open during COVID. They opened this year, they attended 5 days, they put into place what they thought was necessary. Nobody had COVID, the COVID count did not change. They survived and their kids thrived. Meanwhile, these kids on this virtual learning track, they are failing. The state standards, I hear the ISBE standards, that was my Bible. I had to conduct myself accordingly. That is where we're into trouble. I'll touch on critical race theory. That is coming next. That is coming at us like a freight train. That is here, and that will be in many of our schools in any given light. I'm hoping that teachers are sensible enough to tread lightly. Another component of that is SEL, social emotional learning, and this is very concerning for any parent because it's sex ed, and it sexualizes our children. It grooms them to become victims of these predators is what it really does in plain English. It's disgusting. Those two things. So my name is Sheri Tucci. My email address, if you want to take it down, sheritucci@gmail.com. And I am your contact person within this group. And if you can't tell, I'm a little bit passionate about this, but I want to save our babies. My daughter is safe. She will remain safe. And I'm pooling resources. John Kidis put me in contact with a very high up guy that works hand in hand and meets with Donald Trump quite regularly. He is mentoring me. He is showing me and putting me with people in the law side of things so I can compile what I know and what my recon work has revealed to me. And I'm going to work on funding and a platform to gain traction with these liberal moms and these maybe Democrats that aren't so keen on Biden these days, because we're moms at the end of the day before our political affiliation. So it's not too hard to interest moms in their child's welfare, and that's my goal and that's my intent, and that is what I'm trying to do. My name might look a little different than what is going on here. I will not be disconnected from this group. We're a network, and if we all can network and join other groups and bring them in for a united cause, we're going to have a lot more traction in general. So Linda, I'm sorry. I do have some handouts here. Oh, right. Sheri is SHERI. Tucci is TUCCI@gmail.com. My handouts are just some contact information, directions. I do a lot of research. I can't even put it all. You guys would go blind trying to see it. But this is a compilation that was given by another group I networked with when I went to one of the rallies. And this is good directions. If you want information, it's a compilation of a lot of things that cross over what I already know. So you're welcome to hand out under this. The Hatch Agreement is one tool that we can all use. If you have a child in K through 12, come and see me for this printout. You hand it in with your intake papers at the beginning of the year. It is a federal law that's based on the 1967 Civil Rights Act that a very smart man, Senator Hatch at this time, drew up this clause that says, I want to opt my child out of this particular educational objective, whatever it is. So they don't define what it is, so we don't have to define what it is. But it will give you a leg up in legal ground because you can only miss 18 days of school in a school year, and they have a whole pride calendar of events that are encompass more than 18 days just in that light, not the sex ed, not all the other crap that they're going to be, you're wanting to be yanking your child for. So this Hatch Agreement will kind of blanket you if you as a parent feel, and I'm compiling another group that's going to give us other directions for homeschooling. I can give you materials. You can do better than what this e-learning is providing our kids. It's crap. It's just, they spend a lot of money on these programs. It's a circular money thing, and it does not benefit our kids at the end of the day. It's so terrifying for me. So the Hatch Agreement is for parents that are going to be filling out forms. I have 50 copies. You can all take them and make copies and send those to people you know. But especially you who have children, you're going to want this, and you're going to want to fill it out. And they're not going to know what it is, and they're going to make you sound like you're stupid. They're going to say, no, I'm not going to take this. And you'll say, oh, no, I have my copy. And, if I need to go a lawful route, you're going to come see me, and I'm going to help you with that. But they need to keep this on file. You're going to include this with your student's file.
Thanks, Sheri.
Okay, I'm sorry. I could go on and on. You want more?
I just wanted to also, if you could write this down, and probably some of you have already mentioned this website before, but IllinoisFamily.org is a huge resource for information. And on their site, they have, and I've got like 5 here. They were kind of a lot, so I couldn't print them all for everybody. But this has combating critical race theory in your neighborhood and your schools, and it's everywhere. I mean, it is like in your public library, it is in your municipality, it is in your schools, it is everywhere. So if you go on that website, you can get this, and it'll tell you everything you need to do to be able to combat this at the local level. The other thing,
What do you think called
it's called combating. Well, if you go to IllinoisFamily.org, they've got way more things than just but you can hand this stuff out. This is articles on critical race theory.
Oh.
Okay. And then the other thing is, on this, 818 bill, which is sexualizing our children, and it's going to be teaching our second graders that the traditional
From a friend.
relationships, mothers and fathers,
How you
it's
doing?
like,
Good,
how do they
nice
word
to
it?
see you.
It may, it's a stereotype and how that may limit behavior. So it's like, you know, this is our second graders learning this kind of stuff, you know, they need to be able to define all the different types of sexuality and stuff. So we really, but right now, what I looked at this morning, and I don't know, is that it passed both the House and the Senate. It's on Pritzker's desk. He can veto it. I doubt that he will. But, huh? A1A. So I would just say, call his office and tell him.
If you don't know what, it's a Senate bill actually. 818, you need to write that down, do just this much research, it's disgusting. Kindergartners are gonna learn about homosexuality. First graders are gonna learn how to touch themselves, AKA masturbate. Fifth graders are gonna learn safe anal sex. If this does not terrify you, I promise you, California is already, New York is already, we are next. This is here, SEL is what you're gonna find that under.
If you go to this, if you go to that IllinoisFamily.org and you search SB 818, it'll come up with this article and tell you all the different things over there. Yes.
I have a couple quick questions. Can you talk a little bit about, because what I'm hearing is that with the passage of some of this stuff, that it's either all or nothing, that schools will have the option to accept the entire curriculum or not. And then I'm also wondering, I believe on February 16th, it was the cultural responsiveness in teaching and leadership. Can you talk a little bit about the difference or how it ties in with how critical race theory is being employed in schools? Because it does seem like with the critical cultural responsiveness in leadership and teaching, that it has an effect on whether teachers will align themselves with this and basically vow to teach us in the classrooms and they can lose their jobs. Is this true?
Yes.
And their
State
certifications?
standards that are mandating that they do this. And so there's different curriculums that they can choose, and every school board has their own choice as to what they're going to use. So, you know, that's where parents, not even just parents, like everybody, go to their school board and say, I want to see what this book is that you're going to be using. You know, what is the plan with this? And start pushing back. You're starting to see more and more states saying we're not doing this. You know, there's states that will not do it. Illinois is not one of them.
There's laws. There are federal laws that are in place. It's mind-boggling, but they're just little, nobody's challenging this, so they are putting it in place. It is all tied to funding. Any way you slice it is tied to funding. They have an allocation of funds that are going to perpetuate whatever that curriculum movement is going to be. I've been in education a long time. It changes. Does anybody remember when they took phonics out of elementary school for 1 year? Do you know how many kids in America that screwed up? That it was the birth of dyslexia. Okay? 1 year. You think 1 year is not going to hurt our children of every age? These are excellent questions, and they are pointed questions for the school board. And they need to be able to answer this. There is ways to get that information, but it's so elusive and ambiguous. You're not going to get it direct. Yes. Just like who knows about the passports? Do we have to wear a mask? Not wear the mask? Are we going to have to do a passport, a vax passport to get on a plane? It's kind of that, and that's where the teachers are at. No, not anymore, because enough people, were interested in challenging it. But not a lot of people who don't have school-age kids are very, even though we're paying taxes, regardless, our seniors are paying taxes. Curious, yeah.
So Deanne Mazzocchi, when I was meeting her in Elmhurst, this is for people, anybody that has, you don't even have to have children. You can do a FOIA to your school for specific grade. You can go, I want to get the curriculum from this health teacher.
Freedom of information.
And they have to give it. They said, go after them this summer. They cannot turn you down for FOIA. They cannot, but they can be busy. They can be busy. And
I spent my 45 minutes yesterday of research. I am a glutton for punishment, I promise you. So there are clauses. If you go onto the Illinois.gov, I read the multitudes of pages under all the little, outline framework. There are some 3 very specific disclaimers that they do not have to release information on, okay? They will not release it, and there's a bunch of hoops that you're gonna have to jump through and forms, and if they don't like the way you filled it out, they're gonna reject it. You can appeal it, they'll probably still reject it. Go to the source. Go to the source, go to the guy that wants your vote, go to the school board, go to one person that will hear you on that school board. It's the quickest way. I thought the FOIA thing too. I thought that was one of my little, you know, tools I was gonna put in my pocket and use when I need it. It's really a dead end. Unfortunately, it is. I was hopeful and I was prepared. I read some promising things, but then I said, okay, what do they reject this on, or what do they not honor a FOIA for? And that was alarming, and I cried. So anyway, it's frustrating.
But like Dan said, go to your local rep and say, I got turned down for the FOIA. Let them help you. Let them help you write that.
Yeah.
So
They know how.
those tools.
Bailey, who listens to potential Governor Bailey? Darren Bailey, anybody? He is on Facebook. He does every day. He does, and he's so on the ground. And he gives you these little nuggets. He tells you, you know, he's very Christian, and he's very, you know, it's wonderful. It's very refreshing. If you don't know Darren Bailey, D-A-R-R-E-N, we're endorsing him. You know, I'm going to go on the limb and say that, because we really need to get our full support on one candidate. And I've also done a lot of research on who all the running mates are, and it comes back to him any way you slice it. So that being said, Darren Bailey will give you daily little tidbits, and you can take that and run with it, and it cuts through so much red tape. He's on the ground before he goes into chambers.
You don't know what's
Senator Bailey,
there's bills
when he
that
comes
come
out
in.
of session, he says, well, this is what happened. And he says, but it's okay. It's a little messed up, but it's okay. And he says, this is how we're going to proceed. And he's right. He knows.
Gives you action items like call, do this.
Call to action.
You
Yep.
know, and so he's really good about like giving you information about what you can do, because you know what, we're all here, we all care, and it's like we're all like preaching to the choir here, right?
Yes.
It's like, and so one of these things that kind of like got to me where I felt like, okay, like I know I can just sit here and talk to all you guys and we all think the same way, you know, but it's like, how do you get more people involved? And one of the things that we did in my neighborhood, I don't know how many of you, do you guys know about the Nextdoor app by any chance? It's like, okay. So what I did was it's wonderful.
It's great.
It is, you gotta watch, because you can get kicked off real easy. There's a bunch of liberals running at you, but the thing that's really good, the thing that's really great about Nextdoor is that it links you up with your neighborhood, okay? So what, your neighborhood and like surrounding neighborhoods, and so I got on there, and you know, we started like, you know, identifying people who were conservatives. We could tell by what they were posting. Somebody posted something out there. In fact, just met Adam today, or like a couple days ago, because he posted something about DEI in Glen Ellen. And then of course, I started seeing all the different, you know, posts and people saying this, that, or the other thing. You tell the conservatives. And we have our own private group. We don't let anybody else in it unless they're invited. And we call that Friends of Liberty in our neighborhood. That's what we are. And so we invite those people. So now I've got this network of people who think just like we do, but they're in my neighborhood. And so then I had heard through my township that there was an opening on the school board. And one of the girls that was in our group, who I knew from Friends of Liberty, I put out there like, hey, there's 2 openings on the school board, and 2 of my Friends of Liberty applied for that position. And so here we got 2 conservatives that I knew were gonna go, and they didn't even call one. And I think I know why, because you know, they kind of figured out that he was probably conservative and didn't want him. Elise was more lower key, didn't say too much, but we know where she's at. And she got on the school board. And so this was a great networking tool to start like getting people and putting people in place. The other thing we did with the library in Carroll Stream, I don't live in Carroll Stream anymore, but I was there for 30 years. They were talking about DEI in the library. How are we going to implement DEI in the library? So 5 of us got on their Zoom call on their little focus group. I don't think they expected that, but we just really turned that whole thing around. So that was like a really good way to start getting on these things and play them at their own game, you know? So it's like start getting involved in your neighborhood with these, yeah.
Sorry for my ignorance. What is DEI?
Diversity, equity, inclusion.
Oh.
It's the same, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Social justice, yeah, it's just social, there's so many terms and they keep changing them, so we can't really put them together and connect the dots.
Social, emotional.
Well, social emotional learning is part of it. That's a subsidiary of it, but it's critical race theory is what it is. So it's just by another name and it sounds very fancy. All these three-letter anything is bad. I'm just saying. Stay away.
You know, they just try to make you feel like, you know, like, well, you don't want inclusion, you don't want it, you must be a racist. No, we're not a racist. That's why we don't want it, because this is what you want. You're wanting to put everybody in these little pockets. We want everybody to be together. We don't look at color of skin or what your sexuality is or whatever else. You know, we don't want to like split us all up and start hating each other.
And that's where Father told us, well, what do you mean by inclusion?
Right. So we got to start asking questions.
Inclusion is a term in education that we have.
What the father said.
Oh, I wasn't here. I missed it. I'm so sorry. Inclusion is a friendly word in the education realm. I did special ed services, and we have practiced inclusion for. It's never changed. We've always called it that. That's not new. But because it's associated with a positive thing, the connotation in semantics language, how we use it, we would think it's a good thing. So when you're talking to somebody that is scratching the surface or said, yeah, I heard of it before, they think it's a good thing, and you would, especially if you're familiar with education, but it is not a good thing. In a nutshell, it is equality, Martin Luther King's goal, we're all on that page, versus equity. Now the word equity sounds like an equally decent word. It doesn't, equity, line of credit, that doesn't sound great, but equity in itself sounds like a similar word, but it means a very different thing. It means, it's the socialist concept, if you want to use that comparison, but it's so much more and worse. It's more communist.
I have a good analogy
Let's
that I
see
heard
what you
on
have.
I was listening to, I don't know if you guys ever listened to Moody Radio on 90.1, but from 4 till 6 p.m., Janet Parshall does In the Market. She's wonderful. She's an attorney. She's great. And she was talking to a guest who was explaining equity. And the guy said, equity is, everybody runs the race, but the guy that runs faster has to run a half a mile farther. And so everybody ends at the finish line at the same time. That's what it is. And so how is that fair to the fast runner? How is that fair to, you know what I mean? It's like we're all gifted in different things. God gave us all our own things that we're good at. And that doesn't mean that I can be an NBA basketball player. I might really want to do it, but I can't do it. And I shouldn't expect them to make me be on the team just because I want it.
Right.
So, that's like where this is a big problem.
Where they are implementing this in California, this is their school year coming up. Just to give you a concrete example so you have a basis for understanding how this is being implemented into their curriculum. So let's take math. Math, for example, there's always different levels of math. We have like our basic math students. We don't like to call them tracks, they're tracks, okay? So we have our average math learners, then we have our advanced math learners, then we have our AP classes, right? And who's mostly in those AP classes? And this is a statistic. I'm not making this up or making a generalization. Asian students, okay? So, critical race theory is targeting the white male. But who is really being hurt by this? Another subgroup, okay? Another oppressed, group, let's say. But engineering students, medically bound students, those are the ones being hurt by this, okay? So basically what they're doing is everybody's on the same pace. So basically they're on pace with the slowest math learner. So you don't have any more tracks, you have no more AP classes, no more 5.0 GPAs. Those are gonna go out the window because everybody can only hit a 4.0 at best. But we're all gonna reach a 4.0 by the slowest learner's standard, okay? This is happening. History, critical race theory, they're scrubbing history, they're rewriting history. Those are how they're implementing this, okay? If you need more research, they're doing this, I gotta go.
Yeah,
but you can reach me, you have my email address. I told you I could go to sleep. But I do have very specific information. If I don't know the answer, I probably will be able to get it for you or work with you to arrive at that. So, SheriTucci@gmail.com.
Thank you, Sheri.
sometimes there's so much that's like drinking out of a fire hose. There's so much information. Molly is a warrior for the COVID and the COVID things that have been slammed down these kids' throats. She is a warrior. She's got her own story. Take it away, Molly.
All right, Molly. So some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about has already been touched on because it all kind of ties in together. One of it being HB 2789, that, big bill where they get full control of the schools. And I think this is so they can push and force vaccinations on these children and continue with the masks. So I'm covering vaccinations and masks. So I think right now we're kind of in a holding pattern because these vaccinations haven't been fully approved yet. I know Moderna just filed an application for full approval. Right now they only have emergency approval from 12 years old and up. And I know that Pfizer and BioNTech or however you say that company's name, they started the process for that. But we need to get ahead of this. This is the most important thing. Any of these bills that are out there, we have to get ahead of it. And I firmly believe that the calling helps. Irritating the living daylights out of these assistants. They were so irritated for HB 2789 when we were calling. There were thousands of people calling, and they were like, "Yeah, calling about HB 2789." And I think emails work too, but it's so easy just to delete that email. And I'm a former cold caller, so I can tell you that calling somebody on the phone and they hear your voice and you start asking them questions. How is the senator going to vote? It pulls them in. I got 3 senators, I heard, from their secretaries, they were going to vote no because they got so many phone calls that day. And then I think it went to the floor and then they extended it and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So anyway, I do believe that's the most important thing. I've started typing up a list of the senators' phone numbers. For everybody, I will send out what I have. I'll continue to add to the list. I think that's a big part of the problem is, and I'm not criticizing anybody, it's hard to find this information. Let's simplify it. Here's your 20 senators that you need to call. Forget if they're in your district or not. The more people that call the senators in or out of district, the more impact you're going to have. And it took me maybe 30 minutes at most to call these people. Just 30 minutes, and I had a script. I wrote it out. Hi, this is Molly. I live in LaGrange, Illinois. I'm calling about HB 2789. I'm calling to ask Senator Hastings to please vote no on this. I will pay attention to how he's voting when he's up for re-election. I'm keeping a tally of how these senators vote.
I was just going to suggest what we've done is when we call out of district, we just give our name because they want your address.
Right.
Because they want to send a letter. So don't ever give them your address. Just say, that's all I want to give you, and give them the name. Another thing that we did was star 67 on the phone. They don't know who's calling. The caller ID will pop up and show what state you come from. Now, we found out by calling all the senators in the federal government that some of them got smart and blocked the star 67, but not all of them do.
And what you can also do, again, I was a cold caller, and I have all kinds of tricks if you guys want them. You can call, hang up, call, hang up, call back again. They will pick up on the third ring because they'll be like, who the heck is this person that must be get a hold of me, right? And you can download other numbers. You can download numbers from their district. 217, 708, 773. Anyway, so I don't want to talk too much because honestly, I feel like, with the vaccines, we are in a bit of a holding pattern. My high school was promoting it once the 16 and over got their emergency approval. What I did, and I shared my letter with you, is I took the informed consent legal document and I turned it around and I turned it into questions. So can you please, thank you so much for making me aware that these vaccines are available. Can you please tell me, do you have any scientific studies with long-term adverse effects? And I went through the whole thing. I said, can you please confirm if any of these ingredients are in the vaccines? Of course they can. Right. They can't, nobody can attest to, these being safe or effective. As we know, I'm sure you guys have heard on the news, young boys are now having heart inflammation. And in Israel, whenever they started, I mean, it's like astronomical in Israel. So,
Affiliated with America's Frontline Doctors?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be a good link for.
yeah, and I'll share that. I
Okay.
have a document here that I typed up today, and I'll just send it to you with links.
Okay.
I have letters in there, for masks, and telling the school, my child cannot wear a mask they're in soccer today, and here's my letter, and it's a legal letter. I have the letter with informed consent. I have a bunch of links and stuff like that. But as far as like what we can do as a community of people, I do feel like some parts of getting back to the schools, putting pressure on them, putting pressure on the senators, we kind of need to come together a little bit better. And I don't know, this is just an idea, but with this group, it seems like this group is growing. And if we could get like a calendar of all the school board meetings.
Yes,
Where are the school
that's
board
exactly,
meetings
yeah.
for the year? We need 10 people, 10 to 15 people to sign up to go support. Shouldn't even be in your district. Just we go support each other. We go to that meeting together.
Easier to do not your district. Right.
Yeah.
St. Charles,
Exactly.
anyone leave tomorrow? St.
Yeah, I
Charles.
saw that. Yeah.
Hey, Westland is Thursday.
Okay. So, but that's what I'm saying. But let's do it ahead because my biggest problem, I'm a single mom, 3 kids. My youngest is 13. My oldest is 16. So I need to know ahead of time, so I can, clear my schedule for all of this. And then the second thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Is there like is there a group thing? I guess on social
There's an email.
Email?
Yeah. So get on the email list.
Okay.
We'll add you.
Yeah.
We started out with 3 people.
Yeah.
Brad and Teresa and I. So we just keep adding people as we meet y'all, and we want you to be informed. You can be inundated. It can be a bit overwhelming, but scroll through for the subtitles of interest and where you're willing to put your effort. It all counts. It all counts.
And the other thing is, Telegram is freaking awesome.
Yeah,
I have found
great.
so
Oh
many
my
things.
God, yes.
But even for like these letters that I'm finding to send to school, I just put in the search bar, informed consent, or a letter about et cetera, et cetera. And I can send you guys chats to follow. And Chad, thank you for letting me know about Telegram. Appreciate it. And then there's the mask issue. IDPH repealed the mask order. I contacted my school superintendent and I said, hey, what's your plan going forward? What are we going to do? And he, of course, gave me a non-answer, which was, oh, well, we're going to keep the masks to the end of the year, but it's looking good for next year, because I obviously wanted you to go away. And I said, well, it's as of May 17th, there are no masks. So why are we continuing with the masks? And we started to get into this conversation, and I played dumb. I was like, God, I just don't know anything about the law. And can you just, explain to me a little bit better? Like, I just really need to understand it because the information you're giving me is so confusing. It just seems like everything's conflicting. And he was like, well, this is why I copied and pasted, this information from our attorney. And I was like, oh, I said, well, would it be okay if I got your attorney's name? Because I don't want to keep bugging you.
Oh.
So I got the attorney's name for our school district, so that's all the, the lower elementary, the middle school, and the high school. So I have his name. I sent, that email thread onto that person. I haven't heard back. But Tom DeBory, he's on Facebook. He posts a lot of stuff like Darren Bailey. This isn't, the schools are saying, oh, we're going to get sued if we don't continue with the mask. It is up to the schools. It's up to the principal and the superintendent, and the school board. And they're not going to get sued. The law is, it's been repealed. There is an official letter signed by Dr. Heeg. It's all BS. So you want to send your kids to school without a mask, you can do that. And they're probably going to send your kid home, but you are within the law. And you can fight them on this. And I've got all that information in there. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, I did talk to my superintendent about HB 2789. He's so against it. Use it as an opportunity. We may be fighting in other things, like with the masks and stuff like that, but use it to your advantage. We don't
One
want
day.
it, they don't want
One
it,
day.
get them in your corner.
One day.
Yeah, work on that fear. And you know, like I said, I've called all my friends in private school, they have no idea about this bill.
People don't
None.
know. I'm so tired of talking
And
about it, but I have
honestly, that was the best thing to happen, because they weren't getting involved because they were protected, they were in private school. They're like, oh, I don't need to worry about that anymore, you know what I mean? Now, their lives are gonna be affected like ours are, so, anyway, that's all I really have to say, I don't.
Molly, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you. Is there anybody that did not sign on the clipboards with your email and information so that we can forward this stuff to you? I have the clipboards, let me give you the clipboards.
I think there's two that circulated.
This is the hatch agreement. This is what your intake papers are gonna have.
Is this the letter I need to give to them?
Yeah, your intake, you know, even if you don't have a child entering school, it's not a bad idea to pass it along.
If you didn't,
I wasn't sure how many people were here.
If you didn't, you know what, if you didn't, there's two clipboards that went around, Madeline, and those were for the both of those were for the same, Madeline, the two clipboards that circulated, those get most of our emails across. Okay, yeah, so they're the same thing, so we'll have your cumulative. Molly, thank you, great information. I know we're all going through that mass craziness and knowing, I've got grandchildren, but even if you don't have a child or a grandchild in school, these are impacting these children. These children are going through hell. Let me tell you, they're in hell. The learning that they had to do, the suicides went up exponentially and nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to talk about children that committed suicide or tried to commit suicide because they weren't in school. Their sports were taken away. Their lives were taken away. Depression. I watched it with my granddaughter who's 16 years old. She missed her sophomore year of school. These kids are being punished when they return if they don't vaccinate. You miss it, if you are subjected or you're in contact with somebody with COVID, you're out 10 days with no e-learning. That is not lawful. There is a law that says you are required or able to get school. So we need to look at this legally. We need to fight for our kids and our grandkids, our neighbor children, everything. So Molly is a warrior. She'll be sending stuff out. Thank you so much. I know your hardships. I know it's heartbreaking. So that being said, I can't tell you how proud I am of everybody that came here today and the people that are our core group, our Lindas, our Sheris, our Brad, our John, Andrea, all of our core group that have worked, and Jackie, wherever you are. Jackie's the mouth from the South, I love her. So anyway, but coming together, it has been an absolute amazing journey, and I want everybody to go on. I call it my dandelion theory. We put a plant in, it grows up, flowers, and then those things fly up and they go all over the place. We don't like dandelions, they sprout everywhere, but that's what this group is about. I want you all to sprout. I want you to go start your own groups, reach out, make those dandelions grow everywhere. That's the only way we can win. Steve, short up, my friend.
My name is Steve Balich, and I got a lot of different hats. I've been around a long time, an old goat, you know, a lot of us in this room. Back in the Tea Party days, I see some of our group, Stephanie and Madeline and Audrey. You know, we had 11,000 people in the Will County Tea Party Alliance. 11,000 plus, I stopped counting after a while. We'd have anywhere from a small meeting was 3,000 people when we did a rally. We had as many as 10,000. So it can be done. Barack Obama made the thing go away when everyone ran for office and they lost and they kind of lost hope. We can't never lose hope, ever. That's the most important thing we got. It ain't hope and change like that moron wanted. We're talking about real hope. And you know where hope comes from? Not being afraid of anything. Just like Father Tom said, if someone tells you you can't do it, tell them to go to hell. You'll do whatever you want. On the county board, they say that you can't do something, and I tell them, tell the lawyer, hey, you're wrong. And then the lawyer says I'm wrong, and we get an argument. The next month I come back with proof he's wrong, then they want to quit. You know, they don't like it. Too friggin' bad. We have to stand up for what's right every single time and not care what anyone says. Back in the old days, like in the Tea Party realm, we had a thing called Conservative Tea Party or Conservative Committeeman Project. And that meant there's no boundaries. We're conservatives. Do you care if you live in DuPage or Will or Cook? Everybody's on the same page. So everybody can cross over and help anybody. So when you can't be a committeeman, so what? Right? You have to be a committeeman to go knock on the doors? No. Do you have to be a committeeman to talk to people? No. So the hell with it. If they tell you you can't be, so what? We don't need you anyway. Anyone that doesn't want more people in the group is a moron. Remember that word, moron, because there's a lot of them out there.
It rhymes with Democrat.
And you know what's happening now? This is really cool. I started the home was you got to look at things like The Art of War from the Chinese. So I read that book, and I don't like reading. It's complicated for me because I got an ADD and dyslexia. So it's really a chore. But I read it. So in 2017, I told one of my buddies from Ruby Gave, he owns the joint over there, I said, I got an idea how to fix where we live. And he says, it isn't possible. And I said, I got an idea, and I'm going to make it work. You want to be part of it? And he says, yeah. And I explained it to him. He has no clue what I'm talking about, but he says, yeah, I believe in you. Let's do it. So guess what we did? We started in 2017 planning. And the first thing that had to happen, we had to take over the local Republican Party from the Republicans.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. What needs to be done?
So they think I'm a dumb dago. That's what they think I am. You know? So they underestimate me. And this other guy, he's Italian and Puerto Rican. So he's dumb too, right? They didn't see us coming. We ran somebody in all the precincts. And they were so smug, they thought that they had it made. They didn't run anybody against us. And at the last minute, one person decided to run. So we had 17 precincts out of 18. And then our one guy wins. Because he beat the other one 2-1. Now we control the party. Everybody in this room can do the same thing.
That's right.
Nobody can. I ain't no friggin' genius, honest to God. So you can do it. So now after we take over the party, what's the next step? Now we got to get rid of all the Republican jerks that are in office.
Right.
All of them, right? How do you do that? So I sit down and I draw out a plan. I got another idea. And the idea worked. So we ran 22 people for office, and we won 18 seats out of 22. And none of the people that won were ever elected to anything. So it can be done. There's hope. The word hope, we have hope. We can win. And now we have 402 people in the Homer Republicans. So the last time we had a Lincoln Day dinner, I said, well, you know what, we're getting out of Homer, we're going to expand. So we went to Palos Country Club. And that's where we held our Homer Township Republican Lincoln Day dinner. Why there? Because I wanted to make sure everybody knows we exist, and we're going to fight in Cook County, Will County, Lake County, wherever you need us, we're going to fight. If I'm the only one that goes there, I don't mind fighting with people. I like it. You got to remember, Sicilians enjoy a little here and there, you know. But it's so easy, yet it's hard, but it's easy. All it is standing up and, you know, like you look at it, you're looking at me, and I go, you got a problem? You know, and then you go, what do you mean? Then you start yelling at me. And I go, you think I care? You know, I mean, that's kind of your attitude. If they don't like you, just blow them off. Because not everyone's going to like you, right? But everybody here can do it. And when we ran Mike Frizzalone ran for Congress. He really won. They cheated, but whatever. But they met so many nice people. Like we have Herb over there. He was running for, he's going to be running for Congress. we think, and we don't know for sure, but we saw, you go in Mount Greenwood, it's all the Irish guys over there. And you talk to them, you know, I grew up, hey, Irish, forget about it. They're a little bit, not you know what happens? You know what happens? I'd be friends with all the Irish people became my friends. Now I love them. They love to drink beer. And they're down there to help. So I found out an ethnic group that I really like. I like the Irish. But I mean, I never would have known that. You know, because I kind of like avoid them, you know. But now I know. Now they're my best friends. You know, now just think about all this stuff. You meet so many good people along the way. And the people you meet along the way are same as you. And like now we got the 18th Ward Republicans going to walk in the Homer Township parade. Why? Because they think that if they walk with us, they're going to get some, I don't know what you call street creds? Street creds or notoriety? Well, whatever. But bring them on. The more the better, you know, somebody here said it. Just, we want everybody. We want everybody. Everybody can be part of this stuff. And never give up. And tell everybody they don't like it, tell them too bad. And just smile at them. And when they call you a racist, I tell them I got one drop of black blood. I'm Sicilian. So you know what? They just about died because they wanted reparations, and I said I'd get some too. I mean, this is how you got to handle it. Don't care about it. Just laugh it off and smile. So I don't know what else I can tell you other than enjoy life and kill these libtards. Oh my God. Thank you.
That's my closer. I can't do any better than that. So anyway, we are going to set our next meeting, and we have your emails. We'll set it up. The core group will set a next meeting. We do have one of the round tables we have a suggestion for is prepping. There are people that do prep. We want to do a round table. If anybody's interested, we'll send out an email as that, include that. That will be away from our normal meeting, but a round table on prepping. People are somewhat interested. We're looking at some really crazy times with the Chinese. So that has come to me that there people are interested. So I am going to do a round table with people that are in different types of prepping. So if you're interested, that is going to come. That probably will be maybe August. So thank you guys for coming. I'm so humbled. The core group, all of my core group, you know who you are. And be dandelions, guys. Be dandelions.
I was at the Frank Grilly yesterday, and they said that we are to get on the shops, the stores, Disney, and start leaving awful reviews. Anybody that supports BLM and Antifa. Because they gave Frank back, they went back into Costco. And they put my pillow back in after we left.
That's the power of the people. There is a power of the people, and I think that we have been afraid. And I was going to say this. Here's my analogy back to my building because I work in the building industry. Put your hard hat on. You're going to get hit with shit. I'm sorry. You're going to get hit. Put your hard hat on. Put your high-vis vest on. We want to be seen. We want to be known. We are not going to be silenced. Put your helmet on. Put your high-vis vest. Let's go to it. Beat dandelions. Decide where you want to be in construction. Let's go to it.